Techbuds podcast number 5. Today, special guest of mine, especially one of my favorite rappers, a friend of mine, and a business partner too, Tarik Trotter. Happy to have you on, man.
Welcome to the podcast. And thank you for being one of our first guests on the podcast. We really are just kind of talking about life, breaking down a little bit about your career, where you grew up, a little bit of everything. So I don't know if Ricky, if you want to start off with some questions.
Yeah, I mean, just to give a little background, me and Tarik both used to work at Yelp. So talk about this podcast a lot is talking about people not working that corporate life, doing cool shit. So we were both, where we first met, we were both working that corporate grind.
Yep.
And then I remember one day we're talking about music and Tarik's like, I rap. I was like, you rap?
Yeah.
Like, let me check this guy out. Usually, like, when you meet someone and they're like, oh, I rap.
You're like skeptical. You're like,
you go on like SoundCloud and you find some like trash. And dude, his album blew me away.
Really?
Like, instantly became one of my favorite rappers. And honestly, it was a point in my life where I listened to his album as real inspiration. I think what I love about Tarik is he's so unique in it's not the typical rap music.
Yeah.
Very inspirational. Do you curse in any of your raps?
I've only cursed in one song ever. Everything I Am 3. Yeah.
So he's cursed in one rap song out of his whole catalog, which is just very different.
Unique.
And
unique. I heard you talking about Lecrae, which I grew up in a super Christian household.
Mm-hmm.
I remember listening to Lecrae all the time because he didn't cuss. And for that reason, you can hit such a bigger audience as well because you don't cuss. And I think overall it's...
So what are you focusing on now? Like, what's your day-to-day look like? What are you up to? And the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, that's a good question. The short answer is I focus on whatever's in front of me, right? Like, right now I'm here with you guys, and, like, this is where I am fully. It's often hard for me to recollect what I did over the weekend or what I have going on because I'm just like whatever's in front of me, whatever's necessary right now, that's just how my framework is and how my mind is. I'm just like 100% into it. But
in the moment, living in the moment.
Yeah, truly. And I guess like recently I signed a publishing deal, music publishing deal. So
I kind of want to know, let's take a few steps back and let's talk about, you said you worked at Yelp together.
Yeah.
Rapper. Do you still work at Yelp?
I do not.
So what happened on that transition to where you realized you can really take your passion for this career and pursue it and quit Yelp?
Or we should even go a step further back.
Yeah, we can even go
because
farther.
he had a rapping career before that. So maybe go back to the New York days.
Your passion, when you found out your passion for music started. Let's start there.
Yeah. Okay. So a couple of disclosures, right?
Yeah.
I think very differently about a lot of things. Okay, so my answers might not be
that's
like
right.
typical.
Everyone is entitled to their own opinion.
Yeah,
it's all good.
Absolutely. So music started in my college dorm room back in December of 2009.
Okay.
Basically, I'm gonna give you kind of like the long story short here, but it was a very rough day. I had woken up, found out that I made the basketball team that I walked on to, right? Prior to that, I had spent 365 days in the gym working to become good enough to make this team. And when I say 365 days, I'm like not exaggerating or overselling. I mean, like there wasn't a day that year that I missed working out in the gym and also like on my basketball game.
So you were passionate with basketball starting off.
Absolutely.
That's where your career you thought was hidden. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Had dreams of going to the league like most kids from the hood.
Yeah. That's from back in New York?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Right after I found out that I had made the team, I also found out that I wasn't going to be able to go to school anymore because financially just was tapped out.
Yeah.
Couldn't get a scholarship. My logic was if I went to school, did really good academically, I would get a scholarship. So I made the dean's list, had a 3.875 GPA, and the school gave me $1,000 per semester.
Nice.
and it cost $35,000 a year to go there. So wasn't even
Not that
coming
great.
close.
Not enough. Not enough.
So the same day that I found out I made the team, the same day I found out that I was gonna have to leave campus and wasn't gonna be able to go to school anymore. A couple of hours later, get a call from my mom saying that there was basically an eviction notice on our door back at home in the city. Not amongst a bunch of other things, for some reason at night, for the first time ever, I decided to pick up a pencil and put what I was feeling down on paper in the form of a song.
Yeah.
And the first beat that I ever wrote to was a song by Drake called Fear. And I just love this instrumental, something about like the horns in it, the beat, like I don't know, the beat resonated with me. Prior to that moment, never have I ever thought about music.
Rapping or writing down
wasn't
any
a
thoughts or
passion
anything.
like type of thing. It wasn't anything like that. I was like creatively maybe a little bit inclined, right? Had some like performing arts background, went to high school for acting, was doing like some music and singing stuff in my younger years, but I wasn't
had a good taste in music overall. You kind of knew. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. So that's the origins of music.
Gotcha. Okay. And then where'd it go from there?
From there, we ended up moving to Connecticut.
Okay.
My family and I, and basically what had happened was like that. The first song that I ever recorded, the Fear Drake instrumental, I uploaded it to Facebook, and like all my college friends obviously saw
sharing
it.
it
Like,
around.
yo, this is really good.
Yeah.
And I kept hearing, you should take this seriously. You should take this seriously. You should take this seriously. And so when I moved to Connecticut, interesting thing about when you move to a new place is that you don't have any friends, right? Which means less distractions, less going out on the weekends, like nothing. I don't think there was like a Tinder back then.
Do you still have that your first song or saved? Your Fear?
I don't think I could find it.
No, you can't find it? I was going to
yeah.
say we should link it or something.
Yeah,
below,
probably not the best idea. We should probably just leave that alone.
Okay.
We got some
Fair
new
enough. Yeah, he's got some new stuff.
You ever hear like an old voice message of yourself or see a picture of yourself from like 8th grade? It's just cringe. You know what I mean?
Your voice sounds different.
About
everything.
my old songs.
Okay.
Yeah, but moved to Connecticut and had nothing else to do but work on music.
Okay.
And so that was like early development of just the craft, right? Like I was just finding beats on like soundclick.com was a website.
Some free copyright.
Yeah, just like whatever I could find, and go into a studio paying $25 an hour and finding who I was as an artist, if you will, right? But also like learning the craft. Thankfully, I never really had a problem all the way from the beginning staying on beat, right? When rapping, like I didn't have to like learn that. That kind of came.
How was your confidence with rapping? Like I feel like that's a huge part of it because if I was a rapper and I pulled up to the studio I've never been to, like they have high expectations of artists coming in here killing it all the time, and if I was a newbie and sure my friends might gas me up about my song I just wrote, whatever. I feel like going into that studio is kind of taking a big step on like. I feel like you have to have some courage to go in there and confidence in yourself on, to not embarrass yourself when you go in there and make sure you can make a song that at least people, the producer, sings cool, whatever the case is. So how do you think your confidence in?
I'd say my confidence
in yourself.
My confidence early on was pretty high.
You knew you had something special going?
Yeah, like I could hear I always thought that what I was hearing, I could make something as good as it.
Gotcha.
Now, was that necessarily true?
Yeah.
Right? No, and that's what creativity is like. That is right. Like you're always 2 steps behind what you think you're capable of. You'll do something you did really good, you close a deal, but then you're like, okay, I could have done this differently, and you know that you could have made it better.
Yeah.
So in real time, you're never as good as you think you are. But I knew that, objectively speaking, I was. Probably a little bit more talented than some of my peers at the time.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's what we kind of been talking about with our past couple guests we've had on the past couple days. So like, when did you find out that you were, unique, stood out a little bit differently from the rest? So it seems like that's kind of when you figured out.
Yeah.
So when did you start making moves? When did stuff start moving for you?
Pretty shortly after I moved to Connecticut, I was reached out to by.
Were you coming out with songs every day, every week, pumping out?
Nah, it wasn't
taking your time
like
on your song.
Yeah, I was just putting out music. I think I made a mixtape with a college friend, like an early mixtape.
SoundCloud?
Um,
Is that where you're
I
posting your
believe it
stuff?
was on
Okay.
SoundCloud. Yep.
I don't think I heard this one.
Yeah, Oh, it was called the Tryout. Yeah, it was my first mixtape ever with the guy who produced all the songs on it. His name was Christopher Malfaitis, a kid that I went to college with.
Nice.
Um, and then I guess based off of that, a friend that I had went to high school with, Ben Klein, he hit me up on Facebook and he was like, "Hey, would love to manage you. Like, I'm trying to get into this stuff." And
Yeah.
I was like, "Sure." I don't even know what a manager is, what a manager does, but like, yeah, sure. And he was like, basically my goal is to get you signed. Now, Ben Klein was probably not even probably, definitely like the best manager that I've ever had.
Yeah.
He was actually too like ready for me. You know what I mean? Like he was too ready to do things than I was. I'm just starting to do music for the first time. I don't know anything about the industry, about like promoting
Did
oneself.
you make a
none of this
dollar off
stuff.
of it since then?
Since then, have I made a?
Well, oh no, not since then, but back in the day, when you had that conversation where
yeah.
he wanted to manage you, did you make any money before then?
Nah.
Until he reached out, so you didn't know anything about it. You didn't know if you could make money off your music.
Nah.
Or
Like
anything
the
along
most
those
you know
lines.
at that time is like what you see on TV and like like
So it was
you
a big
hope to
step
make
for
it
you.
big and get
So
signed.
that's why it's 2 steps ahead. He saw that you had something special. He was ready to go, but
Yeah.
you were
And
held
he
back
stuck with
by
me for a long time, but I was
Yeah.
held back kind of just by my own doing,
Yeah,
right? Like I
exactly.
wasn't really taking music fully seriously. I was, messing around with girls, partying on the weekends. And it's not to say that I wasn't making a lot of music. We made an awesome mixtape, the one that Ricky was referring to. It's called Here to Stay, right? Like really good compilation of songs that expressed what I was going through at the time. That whole thing was kind of like A&R'd by Ben, meaning like he found a lot of the beats, like hooked me up with producers, etc. And we made, a pretty good mixtape for what it was at the time. And ultimately, it just, like timing wise, right, he was 10 steps ahead of
What time
where I
was
was.
this about?
This was like 2014.
2014. Okay.
Yeah, somewhere between 2014 and 2016.
So how did these stories collide with you starting your rap career? We know a little bit about it now early on. You met him through Yelp. How did these two combine?
Yeah, great question. All right, so 2016.
2016.
This is when I shed some skin, right? You like really become. We all have like those defining times of our life where you really become a new person. There's just something that happens.
Yeah.
But 2016, not only did I take a hiatus, if you will, from music, but I had made this decision internally that I was going to switch things up. I was so frustrated with how stagnant I was musically, just like life-wise, everything. We had this trend where I would take 2 steps forward and then 3 steps back, right? I think in 2014, I met with 7 different major labels, and not one of them signed me. They all passed. One of them was about to sign me.
Atlantic, right?
Atlantic Records.
They were about to sign you.
They were about to give me a similar deal to the one that no, they were going to give me a similar deal to the one that Macklemore had. If you guys remember Macklemore, Thrift Shop, and obviously.
Oh yeah.
He was buzzing with like Logic, Macklemore.
Yeah,
he did a song with Mike Stud.
Had a song with Stud. Was performing in the same places as him. Logic, Chris Webby, Sam Adams, Jonas.
So did you have one song that really? I feel like you look at a lot of these rappers' careers now, like they had one song that really hit for them, that kind of kickstarted everything, that really got them to see that they can make money off this. They drop everything else, do this as their full passion career. When did you kind of see that as well?
Yeah, there was a song called Weatherman that really kicked off things for me. That it went just stupid. And this was like at the time when internet music was hot, right? This is post LimeWire, and so now we're moving towards blogs. That's how everybody's getting their music, and so everybody's going to the same blogs. Yep, exactly. Weatherman just hit, dude. It went off, and that's when I started getting shows for the first time, right? I didn't realize like hit record was correlated to like getting booked for shows. If you do not have a hit record, you are not going to get booked for shows.
Yeah.
So started getting a ton of shows, and that was the first time that I started making some money in music.
How was getting into the shows? Like, and that's such a big transition to like making music, like behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
You post it for people. Yeah, people may listen, they know who you are, but there's no like face-to-face interaction with the fans. And then you get in front of those people and you're like, holy shit, like these people actually like here to listen to me. Like, what's that even like?
You know, a lot of my earlier shows, man, I don't even know if I was grasping what was really happening, right? Like, I remember I had this show at this place called Something Factory in Philadelphia.
Oh, I've been there.
I
forget the name of it. I've been there.
Yeah, maybe like Electric Factory.
I think that's
something. But it was a pretty like notorious venue.
Yeah.
I should know the name. I remember going out there, and I think there had to be like probably just a little over 1,000 people there, but the way the venue was set up, it looks like so much more. I remember going out on stage, and before I knew it, it was done. But I remember like rapping, but like the crowd was just so crazy and so much was going on that I definitely wasn't really comprehending
It was blacked out.
the moment. Yeah, probably just like a little blacked out, and then before I knew it was done. But it was cool. It was official. I had a rider. I had like my own little room before.
Yeah, how'd that feel the first time? I mean, you just said you blacked out. Obviously, it was the first time, but after the fact, you saw people paid to come see you, correct?
Yeah, see me and a few other artists, right? I think Huey Mack was there.
How's that feel? Like, I feel like after you're done with the concert, you sit down and you gotta be like, that is cool shit.
Yeah, I wasn't in that kind of place in life to really appreciate it. I don't think. I think after we went out and we got some Philly cheesesteaks, me and a couple of friends, and
that was it.
And that was it. Yeah, it was like a blip in time, if you will.
Gotcha.
But I wasn't like mature enough to really comprehend what was going on. I didn't realize that other artists were dying to have moments like these, right? And music wasn't something that I asked for, right? My manager was helping me to get a lot of this stuff, and so I was just showing up and doing it, but I didn't really like know what was going on and what I could turn it into. And it shows right over time, right? If you look at, there was a time where me and Mike Stud, we were around, or forgive me right now, he's just Mike. We were around like the same level, right? And where his career trajectory went and where mine went, right? It shows the difference in kind of maturity and awareness around what was going on.
That's what we were just talking with our guests that we just had on here. We all have those regrets. If we go back and do something different, we would. But it also makes you who you are today.
Absolutely.
Also the experience that you've gone through, I'm sure, has shaped you completely in who you are today and the spot you're in as well.
I also feel like listening to Here to Stay, that was almost an outlet for you during that period of time in your life where when I listened to it, it's not like you were trying to make music to sell records and to sell out shows. Like that was like your personal diary almost about what you were going through, your rough childhood, kind of, trying to take all that pain that you had and not, get suppressed by it, but use that to motivate you in your life. So it seemed like to me that whole journey in that mixtape was really about just you growing as a person, but you telling your story, it seemed like it was an outlet for you.
100%. Couldn't have said it better myself. I don't even know if I should follow up that statement because you just you kind of encapsulated it, man. Like, I remember being not so much like pushed for records, but right, like when you have a manager, like their job is to kind of put you out there, and they need a catalog to work with, right? And so it's like, let's make music. Like, let's make music. Or I remember, like, we'd have these studio sessions booked, and I got to show up the next day and have music ready. And music isn't like that. It's not like something that's like, it's not like a 9 to 5 that you punch into, right? I could show up for 8 hours and maybe nothing comes out that day. But then maybe the next day in 20 minutes, 4 songs can come out somehow, right? Like it all depends. Creativity works that way. But I remember at that time specifically, like, yes, I was literally just writing whatever I felt at the time. And so if I had something to share, that's what I was gonna share. And then there were like moments where, in Here to Stay, where there were like more inspirational moments. So, All Right was a pretty big record from Here to Stay. For that song, we went to Boston, Ben and I, right? And it was my first time in Boston, like seeing another city. And this is important for like a kid from Brooklyn, where I'm from. You don't even leave your block. You don't go to Manhattan. You don't go to the Bronx, right? Like where I'm from, that's it. So to go to Boston, it was like a whole new different
world,
experience, right? I saw an actual apartment versus a railroad apartment, right? Like I didn't know that certain things existed. And then we're in just like this living room, and for 17 hours straight, we're working on this record, and we were trying to make a more fun record, and it was much more easy to create that because I was in a more fun environment, not like my shitty, bedroom apartment.
That's definitely how creativity works. Is the environment you're in
100%.
helps spark the flame to whatever you're kind of working on or trying to accomplish. But following up with that, I think So wait, we got to kind of finish here and get back on page with
timeline and stuff.
Timeline.
Right? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yelp.
So we made Here to Stay.
Here to Stay is
made
going.
Here to Stay, and then met with a couple labels. Yeah. That kind of died down.
Through.
I slowed down with music a ton because I realized that I was just making music to make music, but I didn't really know who I was.
Yeah.
I could tell in my life too, right? Like you don't meet with 7 labels and then none of them sign you for no reason. Mm-hmm. There's a reason behind it. And after growing a little bit, I'm like, okay, at the time I wouldn't have signed me either. It didn't make sense, right? There wasn't anything there really. There was good music, but that's not enough. Like anybody will tell you, right? There's a ton of athletes, artists, whatever, people who are good at stuff, but they don't end up getting over that tipping point. Mm-hmm. So 2016, I shut everything down, and I was like, I am going to start doing life way differently. Anything that I was doing before, I'm going to stop, right? A friend asked me to read a book called Power of Habit. Hadn't read a book since Green Eggs and Ham by Dr. Seuss. I'm not even exaggerating. All through high school, middle school, I used Spark Notes. I'm like, I'm not even kidding, dude. I did not read books. But I said, you know what? I'm going to read books because I haven't been, right? And clearly what I've been doing is not working, so I need to make a change here. Started reading books. He sends me this documentary. He's like, hey, watch this documentary, Forks Over Knives. I go vegan, right after watching that documentary. Why? Not because like I was like interested in going vegan. Like I loved my previous diet. I was fine. I did notice patterns though, right? My family kept dying of the same stuff. I was like, okay, let me give this a try because why not? What I've been doing is not working. It's been stagnant. Let me try all these different things.
Full 360 on your life, trying to see
100%, dude. I did this thing called My 100 Days, where basically I put up a big lime green board on the wall, 100-day countdown. At the end of every day, it would be a green check mark if it was a productive day. If it was an unproductive day, it was a red X. After 100 days, what I realized was that every productive day was followed by a productive day. Every unproductive day was followed by a series of unproductive days. So I noticed that
try doing that.
My life was my doing. It was the first time I'm like, oh, I'm the one holding me back. Yeah. Because if I bullshit this weekend and go out and like don't really work on anything creatively or like try to develop myself, the next couple of days would be the same thing. And I was like, this is crazy. A couple of months after that, my friend Leah, music friend of mine, she says to me, you realize if you keep doing what you're doing, nothing's going to change, right? And what she was referring to was me working 2 to 3 jobs, sometimes 4 at a time to help my parents pay rent in New York, right? And I had heard this before. Everyone's heard the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and expecting different results. But for some reason, when she said these words to me that day, it was just like
mind opening. It hit different.
Everything changed.
Yeah.
And I was like, she's right. I'm enabling my parents. They're enabling me. There's nothing forcing me to be different, right? Thankfully, I had started to make some changes, but I was like, I gotta bounce. I gotta leave. A couple of weeks later, it was almost like divine timing. I got fired from my main job, which was a truck driver in New York City. This is while I was making music. I've never done music full time. Important to note.
Gotcha.
Get fired from my truck driving job, take my last $450 paycheck, and buy a flight to Arizona. right? I had visited Arizona a couple of times in 2016 just for a little, pretext there. Fell in love with the place. First time hiking. I didn't know you could hike. Like, I didn't know you could walk on mountains.
In New York, Jersey,
In New York,
yeah,
bro,
there's not mountains, bro.
I'm from Brooklyn. Like,
Just
we don't
city.
have this,
Yeah.
right? Like, you can walk on mountains,
100%.
right? So I'm like, I'm learning these things, and this is brand new to me. So I'm like, yeah, I want to go to Arizona. The game plan originally was like, get here, be closer to LA, and then eventually go to LA. But ended up staying here, love it. And then 2 months after I landed, I started working at Yelp, and that's where me and Ricky met.
Nice.
And then I feel like the first song that really came once you were here that you put out was The Storm.
Yep. Yeah.
So what re-sparked that flame for you?
It was just time, right? When I stopped making music, I knew that I wasn't walking away from it forever. I just knew I needed to know who I am, right? And so I had this big growth period from 2016 to like 2018, 19. I meet Connor, who also worked at Yelp. Shout out to Connor, basically my main producer, my main engineer. And
when you did this whole 360 though, did you still make music when you were at Yelp at all, or was it full drop music and then you got back into it one day?
Yelp is when I started making music again.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, and one of the first songs I cut coming back was The Storm, which was produced by Connor and just went off on The Storm, right? Like, just everything that I was holding in for the past 3 years is probably in that record.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then did that really hit for you?
Yeah, The Storm was the first time that I think that might have been my first release on Spotify.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
I think so.
What was that fire bar in there where you were like, working in silence?
Yeah. Couldn't tell you if I remember it right now.
But it was definitely a change where you were like, I never left, but I've become this new person now.
Yes. It was like something along the lines of working in silence to the point where people think that you've quit, right? But that's not the case. It's just, sometimes there was also another line where I referenced like the famous Kimba step back from UConn, right? Like, sometimes in order to see the shot that you want to take, you have to take a step back. Otherwise, what you're putting up is going to get rejected by the big guy in front of you, which is usually you.
I like that.
You know what I mean? So you got to take a step back to kind of have a clearer picture, and that's definitely what that little hiatus did for me.
So then Yelp music started hitting again. When did you decide to quit Yelp? Because from what I'm aware, you music full time right now, correct?
No,
not full time.
I still have a day job.
Okay, not Yelp.
But again, so this is where I was just referencing earlier on when I said I think about things a little bit different.
Yeah.
In my mind, I don't do music part-time. Music isn't a part-time gig for me.
It's a passion for you. That's why you do.
Life is full-time, right? Yeah. From the second that we're born, you don't like die and then come back, right? Like, you're here or you're not, right? So I'm here. Whatever I'm doing, whatever's in front of me, full-time. I'm not playing around with it. When I was at Yelp, one of the top performers, I don't play with whatever's in front of me. Everything matters to me, especially after 2016, because before I was playing. I wasn't really living. I was alive, but not really living.
Gotcha.
Right? So music now, in my mind, it's full-time. I still have a day job. So on a practical level and like being realistic, yes, my time is divided between certain things, but like, look what I'm doing with music. You don't get this far by like thinking of music as a part-time gig. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm strategic with why I keep my day job right now too. It's because I have equity in the company, which
100%. And that's kind of what our podcast is hopefully all circled around, entrepreneurs, that whole side of the business as well, that a lot of people that are in this industry or any social presence, they have made money off of their brand in some sort of way or been smart on the entrepreneurial investment side of it as well. So that's some stuff I think we want to go over as well. But yeah, what questions you got?
How does it work with like, I've never made a record before. I've never really been around people who've made music really professionally before. How does it work? Like, you make a record, like what's the next steps after that? Obviously it gets produced, the whole 9 yards, like where does it go? Like, how does it work? Like, how does the monetization around making a record work for you? And then what is like, the follow-up question is that like, what makes something a good record, either because you like it because it's good or you're your core fans like it, or a record that people like? You know what I mean? Because I know like you're a very passionate person. Like you put your heart and soul into your music, but there's also those artists out there that will go sing or rap or jump on any beat because they know it's going to be a hit.
Yeah.
Like, what's the separation between like making music to try to make money and make hits, or making music you're passionate about?
Great question. Amazing question, honestly. So to answer your first question, after I cut a record, which I do from my bedroom now, thank you to Ricky and Steve, I'll send it out to Connor to mix it, because my mixing skills are not there yet. Connor has 20,000 hours in mixing, right? So you want to make sure that the quality is there, because what's paramount to me, because I'm not a quantity guy, right? I'm not Russ putting out a song every week. I have to make sure that the quality is intact. That's how Tarik makes money from music, right? It's got to be one or the other. If you can do both, amazing, right?
Yeah.
Great. Then you're Tom Brady or something. But
Drake.
So yeah, I'll send it out to Connor. Probably within like a day or two, he gets it back to me. I will then upload it to my distributor, which is United Masters. Shout out United Masters. A distributor, basically what that means is that they're taking the file of my music, the master recording, and they are shipping it out to Apple Music, Spotify, iTunes, Deezer, Amazon Music, Tidal, etc. Right? That usually takes, it's really up to me, but you usually want to give it like 3 weeks at least. I don't, unfortunately. I should give it more time. I should upload the song and then let it, give it about probably like 2 months, because there's a bunch of other things that happen after you submit your music to a distribution company. There's playlisting, which is important, right? Which is going to determine how a song launches on Spotify. I need to prioritize that more moving forward. But yeah, I'll upload it. Within a couple of days, it's out, and now it's it's in your pockets, and you're listening to it. And streams are a great part of revenue in music for me. Does that answer the first part of your question?
Yeah. So that is based on so you release a song, promotional wise, you do everything you can to be like, yo, check this out. But is there any real campaigns around I'm releasing a record, I'm going to promote this record for a week before it launches, I launch it, my objective is to get streams? Or is there a different objective around the revenue side of things?
That's the traditional way, right? That's the way that is it's proven, it works. You probably want to be doing that. I, of course, am a little bit more difficult. I have had this thing from the beginning of music where, and this is not advice, I'm just telling you how my framework works, right?
Yeah.
I've felt as though, at least for myself, if the music is good enough, it will go, right? It'll it will respond. If you can get it to where you need it to go, it'll respond at some point in some time. You can't rely on this strategy. Not everyone is going to have the same success that I've had by doing this. I can't say I recommend it, but it's also been a personal test for me, right? Where it's okay, I'm going to make the best music that I can, make sure that the quality is there, and I'm going to put this out. And if it is really good, then something should happen from it. It's just kind of how I felt, right? Now, thankfully, that has been the case with me. It hasn't happened with every song, but I did zero promotion for a record called Don't I, and it made it to NBA 2K, right? I did zero promotion for a record called Madonna, and it made it into Fortnite and HBO Max's Euphoria, right? These songs have 1 million+ streams on them, and I didn't do anything. Another song called Yeah, it hit Spotify's algorithm and went off, Discover Weekly. Naturally, these songs took off. Organically, they took off. Now, the importance of that for me is now that I'm really developing my career, right? I have the 10,000 hours, probably closer to 20,000 now. I've learned all the lessons about doing this organically. I know who I am. I know I can make good music. And now I'm starting to make a little money from music. Now I can put the marketing budget on top of it. And that is scary, because if I've done everything with no promotion, what happens now when I do put a little,
gasoline to the fire?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, even Madonna, I remember you showed me that song, I think in 2019.
Yep, that's when I made it.
And that thing didn't pop off until what? Mid 2020, maybe?
Yep, not even.
Or 2021. Like 2 years after
2 years
you
later,
almost made the record.
Fortnite, and that's when it really
Yeah,
broke.
so question for you. You say Fortnite, you say 2K. How does that get to them? And do you see any benefit out of that besides just traction to your Spotify or whatnot?
Yeah, great question. So to first part of the question, United Masters has a sync licensing arm to their company. Okay. Sync licensing just means placement of music and film, ads, television, commercials, TV, etc. Right? So when I first signed up for United Masters, the reason why I chose them, I had switched from TuneCore over to United Masters because United Masters had all these partnerships with like the NBA, NFL, etc. And they were like, if you distribute your music with us, we'll pitch it to these larger companies. So I was like, okay, cool, let me give it a try, right? Some of the very first songs that I uploaded there, like Don't I, United Masters pitched and like NBA 2K selected it. Yeah. Can I say that I had any control in that process? No, right?
Don't I was playing in the bubble,
yeah,
like with LeBron James and stuff during the playoffs.
Yeah.
So what benefits do you see during times like that where it's playing in, the bubble or on 2K? Two
sides. Sync licensing, you can make 7+ figures a year from it. This is like this third door to music. I read this book called The Third Door by Alex. I can't remember his last name, but he was saying like most people either know like the front door where you have to wait in line, right? Or like the back door where you sneak in. But then he's like, there's this third door where it's nothing like crazy, but it's like maybe it's in the alley, right? And there's like this window that is just unlocked and you can just, go in and you're fine, right?
I like that.
Yeah, so sync licensing, I didn't know this, right? So rewind, because you mentioned something about your earlier days with music and finding Lecrae, right? And part of the reason why we listened to him is because he didn't swear in his music. Yeah, so when I used to, ride in a car with my mom, I would want to listen to Biggie, Pac, right? Like Brooklyn, right? Jay-Z, like the people that I grew up on. Couldn't do it though, because my mom was like, no, second share the curse word. I'm like, Mom, he just said this whole bar and all you heard was this one curse word.
Exactly.
So I decided when I first started making music, I'm not going to swear in my music, just because like I knew one day there'll be someone like you, right, the kid version of you who wanted to listen to rap and like wanted to listen to the full song and it should be played anywhere. I didn't know that it would lead to what's happening in sync licensing for me right now. So here we are years later. The benefits of sync licensing are money, right? Like because you're dealing with corporations and companies. If you understand microeconomics, you understand that majority of the money in the world, it flows between companies and businesses, right? So these companies are paying you to utilize your music and not have to deal with any sort of legal repercussions behind it.
It's like a copyright-free.
So you're getting big checks.
That they can.
Yep, and they can use it, right? The second part of it is when a large company uses your music, you're getting access to their consumers. So when Fortnite, one placement, Fortnite, how many kids play Fortnite?
I play Fortnite, so I'm going to have to hear what's on this, see if I've heard it before.
I think it's the third biggest video game in the world right now.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I got to hear your song. I play Fortnite. I want to hear if I know
that's
your
the one
song
you thought
it, for
that
sure.
was Madonna, where you're like, that sounds familiar. That's probably where you heard it from.
Yeah, it's probably
that's
exactly
where you heard it from. Yeah, so Fortnite uses it. Now, every kid that plays Fortnite hears this song.
It's a little catchy song.
And in a special way, right? Because when Fortnite used it, they put it in a hidden basketball court. Okay. So only certain players were able to find it. Obviously, millions ended up finding it. Yeah. But then these kids, what do when they hear this song? Oh, this is dope. They pull out Shazam, right? Now I'm charting on Shazam, right? Why are they Shazamming it? So that they can add it to their playlist so that they can listen to it, so they can stream it.
The butterfly effect.
Now they're streaming it. Now I'm making money from the streams as well. So I get the upfront payment for the master fee from syncing, and then on the back end, I also get the streams.
And even that YouTube music video, it wasn't doing much.
Wasn't doing anything.
It hit Fortnite, and you had like 50,000 views overnight.
Yeah. That's so sick.
So as far as like monetization wise, like obviously like the syncing, like that, what pays the best? Is it like right now? Is it the syncing? Is it like the monetization through like?
Yeah, for me it's right now it's definitely sync. or at least it feels like it, because those are like bulk payments usually.
Right.
But then on the back end, like streams are, that's forever. Like these streams are just going and going. They're working right now. They're like little rental properties.
How does that stream work? Do you get paid like per stream? Is there certain levels you get where they say like, oh, it hits 1 million, you're going to get more for that stream or less? Or how does that even work?
That's a good question. So yes. The simple answer is yes, you do get paid per stream, but you want to think of streams as like a big pie, okay? So when you stream my music, is it helping me? Yes. But bigger artists like Taylor Swift, Drake, Adele, Bruno Mars, right? Because they are consuming more of the pie, most of the revenue is actually going to them, right? It's not like you're actually getting paid per stream. It's like every artist who's contributing to all of the streams ever are divvying up the pie based on like the percentage of streams that they're getting from this huge pie.
I see.
Kind of like you would in like a syndication deal. If you have multiple investors, right, there's going to be a what do you guys call it, a waterfall flow kind of thing.
Exactly.
Right?
Now you're speaking my language a little bit. Now I understand more.
That's a more accurate representation.
That's really interesting. So like people like Drake, for example, because he's obviously huge. Post Malone, these people, they have to be getting massive checks for these streams because people listen because they have tons of different albums.
They're on all the playlists too.
Every playlist, every song,
Apple.
Everything. Like you can't turn the radio on without hearing these people. Like, is it fathomable how much money they're really just making from that? Like,
yeah, I mean, it shows, right, in their lifestyle a little bit. But that's the power of record labels, right? So when you are listening to a stream, you're listening to what's called a master recording. Now, I don't know the details of all of the artists that we're talking about of their deals, right, and how they're structured. But in most record deals, you are giving away either ownership of your master recordings or a percentage of ownership in the master recordings, meaning that, yes, the artists are benefiting from all these streams, but it's really the record labels that are making the most of the money from these streams. Where these artists are making their money is going to be from touring, from merchandise, from sync, and all the other ways that you can make money in music. But the record labels understand this, that the master recording is where the money really lies. And that's why you'll always hear this conversation of like, keep your masters, keep your ownership. But if you want to be a Drake, a Post Malone, Adele, a Bruno, right, most of the time you are going to be negotiating with ownership of your masters.
Right. That's pretty interesting. Because I personally listen to a bunch of different music. I listen to rap. I listen to a lot of country music too. And like the artists that are in like these different niches and spaces and genres, right, they're so vast and like the ways of doing stuff. Like Adele obviously doesn't tour a whole bunch compared to someone like, Luke Combs or Morgan Wallen or some popular country artist. They jump on these tours and they're doing worldwide tours, going crazy, and that fan base is wild.
Yep.
You know what I mean? What does it look like to really like get to the point where touring and doing concerts and stuff goes from like small scale to like big scale? Like how does that even like, do you think that even transpires? Like what, and then what route do you want to think you want to go to either try to get to that point, or what path do you want to follow, in your own little like journey?
Yeah. So I heard this quote once that is like, information without experience is irrelevant, right? So I can only answer your question to an extent because touring is not something that I've personally experienced yet. I can tell you a little bit about my knowledge around it, right? Which is that, you move to the point of touring when you go past people just like streaming your music because it's good and actually like being interested in you as an artist, right? There's a difference between you got a lot of streams and like people are going to pay to come see your show.
Like fans.
Right? Yeah, fans, exactly, right? When Fetty Wap had 1738,
of
right?
course.
The song, were you going to pay to see him if he came out to Phoenix? Probably not, but you love the song, right?
You would go, who's Fetty Wap? But you go, oh, I love that song.
Yeah, you love the
song,
know what I mean? Right? So there's certain data that I do keep an eye on in the dashboards that I have for my music, and I'll know when there's hot spots, right? There's probably a few, right? Like Phoenix is one, LA is one, New York is one, because that's where I'm from. There's a few other, like Austin, Seattle. These are places where I probably could, put on a little tour. But if I were to do it right now, I'd maybe be able to bring out in these cities like 75 to 150 people, which is actually not bad, right?
Right.
Like, and
It's a lot more than it
I'm trying to be
sounds like.
conservative. That I think that would be like an exact amount of people I would see, and that's not bad. Could I do that now? Yes. Is it a priority? No, because I think I can build upon my catalog a little bit more and like.
Is that something you'd want to do in the future?
Yes.
If it was bigger than,
That's the second part of the question.
Yeah,
right?
I see what you're saying. You build your catalog out more. People like there's like more known, like you're more well known, and then it's easier for you to get those fans that like it was a real popular thing. Like 2 days ago, Bad Bunny came to Phoenix, and it's just like look on Instagram, every damn person I knew went to Bad Bunny. I'm like, what the heck? I would never go to a Bad Bunny concert. Probably, I like his music, but I'm never gonna be like, oh, I need to go.
Yeah.
To get like, I'm a listener, but I'm not a fan. You know what I mean? So that's where you're saying
having a hit record, right? You're not going to tour if you don't have a hit record. You gotta have a hit record. I don't have any hit record right now. We got potential hit records, right? Like Madonna is obviously one, and it's important to know that hit records are not. It doesn't mean instant, right? Lizzo's "Truth Hurts," why man, great, right? That song came out in 2017. Nobody knew it. It wasn't until 3-4 years later that it had its moment.
You could pick up on a TikTok trend, whatever the case is.
A lot of artists are.
He had one of his songs wasn't very well known. I actually told Tarik this. I'm like, Kylie Jenner used one of your sounds on her TikTok.
Really?
Tarik had no idea.
No
yeah.
That's badass.
What?
And it wasn't even a song that had much buzz around it or anything. I don't know how she found it or decided to use it in her video.
That's insane.
But
now
Kylie
it's a trending sound on TikTok, right?
TikTok would be a huge
TikTok's
place.
a
You
huge
should start looking at
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
monetizing your skill.
And we'll come back to that in a second because I want to talk about TikTok. The second part of your question is like, do I want that for me? So the short answer is yes, right? Like, who doesn't want a tour, right? Like, that'd be great. I think you also like want to be careful because sometimes you get exactly what you wish for. Touring is amazing, right? Probably like life-changing. Like, what's better than like vibing out with thousands of people? Absolutely. There also comes like being tired, time away from family, not losing some of your peace because you're kind of slave to whatever is happening. I got to be at this show. I got to be at this show. You hear it all the time. Artists get sick, a whole bunch of stuff, right? So like, yes, I do want to tour. Music has become especially like incredible for me because I reached this point where post 2016 where I stopped chasing and wishing for things. And I said to myself, I'm just going to create and I'm going to let the universe do what it will. The importance behind this is that when you don't, the second that you wish for something, in a way you're limiting it to something that you've seen before. So if I want to go on tour, right, I only want to go on tour because I've seen someone else do it, right? That's within like the realm of my knowledge. There might be something beyond that I don't know about, which sync licensing is the perfect thing. I didn't ask to be on Euphoria or Fortnite or NBA 2K. I'm a kid from Brooklyn. I had no idea any of this was even possible. Yeah. So when I focus on the things that like I can control and the things that matter to me, which is like what I'm doing in my studio, in my room, and then I let the music take its course, more amazing things happen for me, right? I hope I'm allowed to even say this, but I was just selected for this thing called the Pepsi Music Lab Academy, where I'm getting flown out to New York for a couple of days. Again, I didn't ask for this. Pepsi used to be my favorite, so it still is my favorite soda. Yeah. I just don't drink. I drink it maybe twice a year now, as opposed to every day, which I did prior to 2016. And so that's like an important principle of me, is just like not getting too caught up and being finite with my goals, and like letting the universe have this element of surprise too, right? Because if I say I want to be a millionaire, then I'm only going to go after millionaire things. What if I could be a billionaire or a trillionaire or a gazillionaire? I don't know what the hell comes after that, but you know what I mean? Like,
we were actually talking about that 2 days ago. We were saying like, because you and I said the same thing, Ricky. We were like, dude, when we were in high school, like getting out of high school and grabbing a job at $100K a year, like the $100K a year mark for some reason, like in our generation was just like, that was like just an indication you were successful.
And now it's
And now
nothing.
it don't mean
Right.
shit. It don't mean shit. It's like,
Don't set that limitation on yourself
Like
sometimes.
barely making it by almost.
Yeah.
This
yeah,
generation.
nowadays it's like you have a car payment, you have a mortgage. Next thing you know, after taxes, that's pretty much gone. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that's a very like admirable point for you to say, because it really does. That's more not just on music, but the whole life thing in general.
Mm-hmm.
Like those limitations that you could potentially set for yourself is like, not saying goals are bad, but like these like finite numerical goals, saying if I make $28.50 an hour, I'm gonna be happy. It's like when you hit that, then what?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So that's very interesting for you to say that for sure. So as of now, like obviously you got this new thing coming up and different stuff like that. What is like your like 5-year plan with your music? Like where do you see yourself like focusing your music on the most, and how do you plan to like approach that?
Yeah. So while I love your question, my framework just doesn't work like that. That's also another way of me saying like I don't have an answer to that question. And it's just because I don't think about life in that way, right? Like I'm the kind of person that's aware of the fact, even as I'm speaking with you right now, I'm hyper aware of the fact that my next breath isn't guaranteed, right? Like that's a fact. There's no
Very
guarantee to it, right?
Very
So
true.
I don't really get caught up in the future. That's not to say I don't have goals and aspirations, right? Like when you get to Mount Everest, obviously you know where you're trying to go, right? But for me, it's just one step at a time. Because if I don't take this step, then how am I going to get there anyways, right? Me sitting here and saying,
enjoy
this is
the
where I
journey
want to
too.
be, this is where it doesn't do anything, it doesn't mean anything. I can know it in the back of my mind, I'll have the goal, and I'll set it aside, and now I get to work. So for me, it's more so, what I can say is that every time that I feel like creating, I'm going to do my best to act on that feeling, get in the studio, and make the best music possible. And every time that I get into the studio, it's like innate within me that I want this song to be better than the last one that I recorded. Like objectively speaking, if an alien was to drop down and they were to listen to Madonna and like a song that I made 4 years ago, they would know that this is like the better choice, right? I just like that's just how I'm built. And I'm going to try and use my past experiences, right, my lack of marketing and promotion, and now that I have a little bit more resources to allocate towards some of the things that I lacked, I'll take some money and put it into marketing, promotion. Be better about uploading a song and giving it, 8 weeks for Spotify's editorial team to hear it and maybe have it placed on a playlist, which is going to be better for the long-term performance of the song. To work with my music publishing company that I'm now signed to, shout out Secret Road, to work with them on creating a catalog that does really well in sync, right? And the only thing that's really changed about my music, where Ricky was saying before, my prior music, a lot of it was more of a diary. My music now still can be that way, and sometimes, but now I just have you in mind, right? My music is best when it's the theme music for your life. So
Right.
I'll try and generalize my unique experiences into something that's a little bit more broad, so that if like the lyric is, I don't know, I'm not going to make up a lyric right now, but if the lyric is going to be more so around like trying to be a better version of myself, rather than like I overcame this one unique obstacle that you can't relate to.
Makes sense,
right?
yeah. So to
Talk
be
to me nice or
relatable,
don't talk
hit
to me
home.
at all.
Yeah, exactly. Right. That lyric right there. Talk to me nice or don't talk to me at all. Right. It's just like, that's me saying like, I have put work in. Right. So if you're going to talk to me about this, then like, yeah, talk to me nice. You know what I mean? Like just acknowledge that like, this isn't like a game.
Right.
For me, not just a game, at least. It is all just a game. Life is a great
You still threw
game,
in there
right?
though, like you're from Brooklyn and stuff, so you still have your
there's
own flavor to
certain
it.
things in there.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of artists that do, like we were saying earlier, like just go out to make songs like
Yes.
only for the people. Like
Mhm.
and they don't give a crap what the hell they say on the record. They just want people to like it. But I know Brandon behind the camera is a huge fan too. I'm a big fan too of Logic. And when you mentioned Logic before, like Logic's one of those guys, like very rarely do I ever listen to, if he drops something, I will listen to song 1 through all of them every time, guaranteed, the entire thing. And he's probably one of the only people I ever do that with. But he has a way of kind of like putting both together, like you said, like he's telling his story from his past experiences, life and whatever, but he's also making records that you can just like vibe out with and you can understand and you relate it to your life.
Yeah.
Which is like, I feel like that's like being very mature in your ability, you know, to create. But it's very different when you said that earlier about the creativity thing, is like when I look at something and like my craft isn't as creative as like yours or someone else's, like it's more of like you're going to put in this much hours and you're going to hopefully get this result out of it, or these good ideas are going to come to you if you put in the effort and time. Where like what you said is like you can clock in freaking 80 hours and not one record come from that, but 20 minutes on the toilet you could come out with 5 damn songs. You can't force it, which is like a lot of other things in like the entrepreneurial space that's not necessarily like creative, or it's really like anything around like creativity or like art or anything like that. Like it cannot be rushed and it cannot be forced, and when it is rushed and it is forced, you can tell. You know what I mean? So I think being in that position, it's almost harder for you to be like, I want to make a record that's going to make 10 million views, or because you don't even know what record's next.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible for you to set these like numerical goals for yourself because you don't know when your next hit is going to hit, or you know what song's going to do what, or the whole 9 yards. It's very interesting for sure.
Yeah. And I think you're unique compared to a lot of artists where in the last 5 years, how many songs have you made?
Probably, I make about 9 songs per year. So, yeah.
Dude, there's guys that make 9 songs
A day.
a
Or
day,
yeah.
you know?
So, but when you think, I mean, the last 2 years, you know, over half of your songs have gotten major placements. So it's like almost every record turns into something, compared to, you know, some artists, they drop an album and it's like one song just randomly.
Hope for one song.
You know, it takes off out
one
of
song
20.
hits. Yeah.
Yeah. And both of these methods work, right? I think it's just about self-awareness. If I was a high quantity guy, then I would do that, right? I've tried like making mad music. It just doesn't work for me.
Does it feel forced?
Well, the problem is I'm a slow writer, or slow comparatively speaking. For me, like I don't, you know, if it takes me 2 months to write a song, it takes me 2 months to write a song. If it takes me 20 minutes, then it takes me 20 minutes. I'll live with it either way, right? But like, I really take my time with every lyric that I'm writing, and like I just don't want to put out a whack line. Like I just don't want to. I'm inspired by, like, writing is paramount to me. It's the first thing that's important to me when I'm watching a movie. If I'm watching a TV show, like writing is going to determine how corny or how dope something is. And like perfect example is like Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises. The writers of those films, there's not one bad line in those movies. And that's how I want my songs to be. I want every single line
Your
is just like
critic too, you know?
Exactly.
So,
exactly. And
makes
so
sense.
that can slow me down but I can only say it's slowing me down if I'm comparing myself to something else.
Yeah.
For me, this is just what works, right?
Your own journey, you know?
Exactly.
Own path, at your own pace, at
Yeah.
your own time. It's sick.
If you're Russ, then like be Russ and make a song a week, right? Like
Literally.
when we were at Yelp, there were people like they were making hundreds of dollars a day. If you can do that and you're okay, like you're at peace, then do that, right? Like that's cool. A lot of my friends, they want me to like market more and like promote myself more, use TikTok more, right? Those things don't come natural to me. That's not saying I'm opposed to them, but I'm like, you guys are right. I'll take the gentle mirror, which is what a friend is, right? I'll take that. Like, yes, I can be better about marketing myself, but I'm also like, if you're gonna criticize me, can you acknowledge that like I'm in 2K, I'm in Euphoria, I'm in NFL commercials, I'm doing just fine in a way. Right?
Yeah.
I get that as a friend, you want to see me go farther, but like I'm also having an amazing career and I'm at peace. When I want to promote more, I'm gonna promote more.
I think that is amazing, because there are so many people that are just like, oh, if I have this one spark, I just need to do everything, whatever. And then that could either burn you out burn
Yeah.
resources for marketing money. So say you do a bunch of songs and you push the shit out of them and it feels rushed, or you feel as the artist it's not your best product, and then people don't like that, then what? Then you're going to be like, crap, I wish I would have went and did it at my own pace and own time. And I think no one knows what's best for you but
Except
yourself.
you. Yeah.
But I mean, sitting in my chair, what I would say is like, I mean, I've listened to your music before. I like your music. Like, I would be like, dude, I want people to listen to your music. How it sounds like your friends are like, yo, I want you to promote. I want you to do that.
Well, even like, you know, me and Tarik have a deal together. Like over the next 5 years, you know, I make money off his streams. I've invested into Tarik. But so part of me sometimes, I wish I see Tarik promote more or make some more music.
I'm over here saying,
you know,
I want you to be successful. But, like, I want to make money too.
But I always acknowledge the fact, oh shit, he's in the Matrix. He's in 2K. Like, he's obviously doing something. Yeah. And I, you know, from the day that I think the reason why he doesn't have, you know, he owns all of his records, right? He doesn't work with a lot of people, and part of it was like, if I'm going to invest in you, like, I'm going to let Tarik be Tarik. I'm not going to tell him what to do. And I know, you know, obviously what he's doing is working. You look at all these placements he has, but then like his Instagram account, I think he got like 2,000 followers. You look at other artists, you know, they're promoting, they're verified, they're all over the place, but they're not on HBO. They're not on these major video games or the Matrix movie, Patrick Mahomes' Instagram. Like, so there's something to be said about that too, where I think your process works, but I think as time does go on, I think there is something to be said. You can make the best music in the world, but if enough people don't know about you, then it's not always like, it's like the best-selling artist, right? Drake isn't necessarily the best artist. But best-selling or you know, best-selling book, it's not always the best book.
Yeah.
So I think there is a middle ground where sometimes you could be the best, but if no one knows about it, it's not going to go too far. But I think there's a time and a place, and I've always had in mind that Tarik thinks about these things. He's not oblivious to this. It's not like he doesn't want more people to know him, but you got to let things organically happen too. And I think it sounds like that might be kind of the next chapter of what you're going to try to do is 100%. Let people know about Tarik. And I think people need to know about you because your message, your story, like people will love you. And compared to like a lot of rappers on just this like bullshit
crap, yeah,
you know, not a great message, not humble. That, you know, once more people know about you, I just think only it's a matter of time until that blows. But if you got to take your time to make that happen, I'm all for it.
Yeah, and I really appreciate what you're saying. Like I receive it, and yeah, like the plan is definitely to let more people know about Tarik. The part that I've been, I don't know if waiting on is like the best term, but it's really just been, I've been locked into self-awareness, right? Like I always say there are your Tekashi 6ix9ines, right? And then there's your Frank Oceans, right? Yeah. Both are going to make a lot of money and have a really successful career, right? One person is always in front of the camera screaming how good they are, promoting themselves in that way. One person you never hear from until they drop an album, right? Both are possible. Where I think I lean towards being more like a Frank Ocean, sure. Right? Or I lean more towards being like a Denzel Washington than like a Kevin Hart, right? Or a Jay-Z as opposed to a DJ Khaled. Both work, but like now that I've gotten to this point where I have enough traction, now I can get a team around me to help do the things that don't come natural to me. Tekashi 6ix9ine, Kevin Hart, DJ Khaled, they aren't forcing it when they promote themselves. They just have these really like charismatic, crazy personalities, right? Frank Ocean, he's just a quiet dude. You're not going to hear from him. Adele, she's not going to be all on Instagram like holding a phone promoting her stuff. You know what I mean? Like when you know yourself, you just go about it a certain way. But why do people know Adele now? One, she's one of the most incredible artists of all time, right? Let's not discount that. But then two, she has a team. of people that are doing a lot of stuff for her. You guys follow Tom Brady on Instagram? Amazing what he's doing with his social media. You think he's doing that after his game? You think he's the one posting that stuff? Nah, dude. Like, he gets on the phone and, like, he'll, you might see him for a second.
Because it's scheduled.
Yeah, but he's got a team. He's got editors, right? He's got, like, stuff in place. The same way you guys right now, you got a team here, and that's incredible. And, like, I love that you're able to build things out in this way, and that's definitely something I look forward to. That's, like, the next chapter of Tarik is, like, a little bit of a team around what I'm doing.
Structure.
You are part of my team in a way, right? The resources that you've provided me now allow me to go out and do more things. Look what I've been able to do in the past year and a half because of you, right? Signed artist now, right? In a way, like, that stemmed from the music that you've allowed me to create over the past year and a half. So the next chapter is exciting, and it's absolutely about turning the volume up, right? I can't turn the volume up on how dope I am. Like, I think that I'm already, like, a pretty good artist. My music is quality. Obviously, I want the music to get better, but, like, the volume knot can be turned up on the marketing and promotion piece, and that's definitely what's next.
I'll be at Whiskey Row on Friday night. I know the DJ over there, and I'm
He'll
like
be pumping your music.
No, literally, I go on stage. I'm like, I send him the MP3. I'm like, yo, play this. He's like, I got you. And then his song's playing. So, but then when you see the reaction, and I remember I sent you that video.
Yeah, crazy.
It's cool when you really see that play out, and I'm sure you'll love to see more and more of that. As time goes on. How do you look at, because I feel like compared to a lot of artists, you just drop songs. You're not really big on an album. I don't think you've ever dropped an album. One mixtape, really, a small EP. Here, do you have, like, album in mind, or you're very untraditional in a lot of the things that you do? So what's kind of your thought on albums versus just dropping, like, quality singles?
Yeah, so in that regard, I actually am very traditional. I'd prefer to do an album. Like, I'd love to just lock in and work on an album. It's, in a way, it's kind of about what lemons life give you, right? In regards to timing, right? When you are making an album, a really good album, a couple of stars have to align, right? You've got to emotionally, mentally, psychologically be in a certain place. You have to physically be in a certain place, in a certain environment. Your producers have to be around. They also have to feel inspired at the same time that you feel inspired, right? And when you have all of those things, and then you've also got to have enough of, like, life not going on so that you could focus on creating the album.
Got to be locked in for the album.
Right. 808s and Heartbreak, famous story. Like, him and I think Kanye and Pete Rock, they were locked away for 2 weeks, and, like, they were not leaving until they finished this, right? A lot of artists, they put themselves into, a certain environment. Queen, right? You've all seen Bohemian Rhapsody, right? They went away to the house, right? And I'm getting to that point where, like, I'll have a little bit more freedom because of my financial situation, where I'll be able to create an environment for myself that's conducive to making an album. But even then, right, like, my main producer just had a baby and has another one on the way, right? So where's his focus right now? It's not on album mode. He calls me all the time like, dude, I can't wait to work. I've just been busy doing this and busy doing that, right? So it's like, yes, I want to make an album. I feel like I have enough within me to, like, create it, like Jay-Z always says, don't make an album unless you have something to talk about. I feel like I have something to talk about. It's just when the stars align, it'll definitely come, and when it does, I suspect that it'll be really fucking special, and I'm excited for that.
What about with working with other artists? Because you haven't been really a feature, or you haven't had any features on your songs in, I feel like, a few years now. Is that something? Do you want to collab more with artists in the future, or are you kind of more I'm going to put my music out. I don't want other people on kind of my artwork.
I don't lean in either direction. I'm completely open to collaboration. I think a piece that a lot of artists don't understand is that just because you're dope and I'm dope doesn't mean, like, let's get in the studio and make music, right? Like, Jay-Z and Eminem only have one song, and that was close to not even being a song, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Renegade?
Yeah, Renegade,
right,
exactly. Yeah. That's the only song, and they're two of the best rappers ever, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes, like, your music doesn't mesh And you have to be aware of that. You have two artists, they're aware of that. It's not that they don't like each other. It's just that the music has to make sense. So I don't think of it as whether or not I want to collab with an artist. What I'm thinking is I'll do what makes sense for the music. And if the music makes sense, if it goes really well together.
Back to those stars aligning, right?
Exactly.
You gotta find that artist.
I don't want to force it.
Their stars align.
Who's the one you want to work with the most?
It's more so producers, if anything, right? Like, I would, as for rappers, you know, obviously Andre 3000, I think, like, if we were to just sit down and, like, make a record, the substance of that record would be extremely rich. Producers, though, like, my tops are Kanye, Timbaland, Hit Boy, right? Pharrell. Would love to sit down with Rick Rubin, DJ Khaled. Other artists that I would probably really want to work with, like, definitely want to work with Cole, right? Like, I would love to work with Kendrick. I don't know if I'll catch these guys in time before they start to fade out. I would love to, but, you know, those are some to name a few.
Do you think putting yourself with a feature, or you getting on a feature of a song or collabing with someone that did have more, like, marketing behind them, or like presence in not just the music world but social media, something like that, would that be necessarily a good strategy to you, or do you feel like that could, you know, take away from, like, the music aspect of things?
No, I think that's a great strategy, right? That's a very traditional, very wise strategy to use. I think that in a way stars still have to align, and I would have to ask myself, what is it that I'm after? Right. And anytime that I ask myself, I also have to check myself, because I don't want to be the kind of person that's after things, right? Mm-hmm. Like, if I'm dope enough, it'll come, right? Like, who's not going to work with a kid who's in NFL commercials, video games, TV shows, right? Like, it'll come.
The phone will be ringing one day with the right people that you want to work with.
And I'm also self-managed, right? So everything that I do, it's just me doing it, right? So I would have to be the one actually reaching out to these artists and their managers, and it's like, am I really going to allocate my time towards that, or just going and making a song, right? Like, on a practical level, I haven't had a moment yet where, like, I felt like sitting down and finding someone's manager, reaching out to them and setting that up.
Yeah, I feel you 100%. I think those phones are going to be ringing for you, for sure. I'm really looking forward to seeing your future music. It was great having you here. It was great talking with you. You have a really great head on your shoulders, and I think you're going to have an incredible career.
Thank you.
Go give the man a follow, Tarik.
Yeah, we'll definitely make sure we link all of his stuff below if you guys want to check out some of his songs, his albums, anything.
Appreciate you again.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming out here.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks, bro.
Have a good one.
Easy for a come up, don't I? Dream so big that my ideas are hard to stomach, don't I?